And Ed, in terms of your area or expertise, in terms of what you'd suggest to the Prime Minister in terms of one big reform, one big hit for a reform, what would you be thinking?
If I reflect on the Labor government's first term of government, we were very heavily involved in the gig economy reform, and for the avoidance of doubt, we are pro-reform and really wanted to see that. But I guess what we were advocating for was modern reform for a modern form of work, and making sure that we have the right safety nets in place, but we are increasing innovation and new technology and new ways of working. And so we think the government struck a pretty good balance there in the first term, and I guess thematically that's what we would like to see in the second term is Australia is a better place because of safety nets, but not slowing new innovation and technology and new ways of working down. And then selfishly for Uber, as we think about policy, advocacy and reform, there's probably two things we'd love to see the government partner with us on. The first is autonomous vehicles. There's an explosion of autonomous tech and self-driving technology, particularly in the US, but also the Middle East and Europe. And we would love to work with the government to set the regulatory pathways in track to enable that here in Australia in the decades to come. And then the second is for Uber Eats, I guess we're on the front line for packaging, and we spend so much time with restaurants about how do they have more sustainable packaging options. And it's really hard. There's a myriad of different standards across the country. When you think about recycling infrastructure, it's different at a state level and a local council, and it's really complicated. And consumers also don't know what they need to do. And everyone wants to do the right thing, but it's hard. And so we think there's an opportunity there for us to do that better in Australia.
Have you been in an autonomous vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if you ever think about your first Uber ride trip, you sort of have that magical experience.
Mine had a driver, though.
Yeah, it did have a driver,
yeah.
And I guess it's a similar sort of like fast-forward moment where you're like, wow, this works and it's pretty seamless and amazing. And obviously, there's still a lot of work being done, but if I think about, I've been at Uber now for almost 9 years, and everyone's talked about autonomous being here next year, and it hasn't quite been there, but the technology is really here now, and I think in the next decade to come, we will see that play a bigger part in our cities.
And David, in terms of your area, your thinking in terms of travel, tourism, leisure, is there any areas of friction you would like to see sort of eased away in terms of reform?
You know, I think you referenced it earlier. Tourism, while it's not our core focus, we think it's a tremendous opportunity, not only for our industry, but I think for the country. And even having moved to Australia 2.5 years ago, Australia is a tourist destination for so many people. I mean, most people, when I told them I was moving to Australia, said it's on their bucket list to visit Australia. But then they may not understand really what Australia represents. And having been here, it's a fantastic, beautiful country. And I think that there's a tremendous opportunity to actually drive more tourism to Australia, either just as a natural country destination, but also through the fantastic events that we have, whether it's Grand Prix or Spring Racing Carnival in Melbourne, all these other things, Australian Open. So I think that we would have loved to see an increase in investment, particularly in Tourism Australia in this year's budget, but I think that there's an opportunity because tourism, hospitality in many ways is an export. It happens within the country's borders, but it's an export. And I think being able to drive the brand of the country and driving more tourism and spending from overseas, we think is an opportunity. And will also help the hospitality industry in the country recover.